My name is Ash Ahuja. Been flying for about 13 years now. I got my sport pilot license 13 years ago and been flying ever since, but only recently got my own plane, so flying a lot more now. My dad was in the Air Force in India, so I grew up around planes all my life. So I always wanted to be a pilot. That's what I would have wanted to do, be either a test pilot or join the Air Force as well. But when I was about 11, I got paralyzed, so that got shot. But still, I got my pilot's license the first instance I could find someone who would train me and find a plane that I could fly. So I got my pilot's license in New Jersey, this place called Philly Sport Pilot. They had a Sky Arrow, which was an Italian light sport aircraft. It's a tandem two-seater with hand controls that are built in by the factory. It's one of the few planes that had factory-built hand controls. And Sean, who just started that flight school, I was their first wheelchair pilot to graduate in 3 months right after they opened up. Philly Sport Pilot provides their Sky Arrow to Able Flight, which is the largest wheelchair training and scholarships organization in the US. They graduate, I think, about 10 to 12 wheelchair pilots a year. I just used the same plane. I didn't go through Able Flight or the scholarship program. But that's an amazing, amazing organization. One of the biggest requirements for me for buying a plane that was not the Sky Arrow, in fact, I love the Sky Arrow, but it's so small that you can't carry the wheelchair in it. I was looking for a plane that had enough baggage area that I could actually take my wheelchair in and actually go places. So the way the hand controls work are, this is the rudder that they install. So basically you move it back and forth. It's harder right now because the plane is on the ground. But this does the rudder and steering on the ground. When you twist it, it does the throttle. As you can see, it moves the actual throttle itself, so just connected. So basically you have your right hand on the rudder and the throttle constantly. And it's a regular yoke for the ailerons and the elevator. The other thing that they installed is these two differential handbrakes. So you can either pull them together or you do differential braking. It still has the regular rudders and toe brakes on both sides. So pilots who don't need the hand controls just ignore them and they can fly on both sides with the regular controls as well. So getting used to the Paradise was really having me to rewire my entire brain of left-right controls, different hands doing different things. So that's taken a bit of time, and I've been flying with a CFI here, Taylor, who's amazing. I have my certificate, but I wanted to have a CFI as I'm learning the plane and rewiring my brain and getting used to the hand controls. Just a whole bunch of new things having to learn. I wanted to find a used Paradise because it's almost half the price and try and get the controls retrofitted. So I found this company in DeLand, Florida. Alex Rolensky runs the company, and he had a Paradise, and he said, if you want to buy this, we'll do the hand controls, install and get the controls from Paradise themselves. And I went to Florida a couple of times to see how they were doing it, and then finally went to Florida in November and then flew the plane back from Florida to California with Alex. That was an amazing trip. It took us about 3 days and about a couple of hours. We ran into some weather, had to divert, take some time off in cities that nobody had heard of. Flying through areas like Texas, which took a whole day just to cover Texas. And then flying over New Mexico was really amazing because that's when we got into this game of pulling up Zillow and looking up the prices of homes in the middle of nowhere. So we just had this game going on where every time we would fly over a region, we would like, how much is the house there? How much is that land there? So we just kept doing Zillow flying, and I would love to do it again for a few times. I would highly recommend it. After I'd completed the trip, I talked to Charles, who runs Able Flight, and to see if there are other wheelchair pilots who've actually done a cross country. And he said, no, actually, this is the first time I've heard of an accessible control plane to have flown coast to coast with a wheelchair pilot. So that felt good. I'm the first one to actually do it in the US. I'm sure there'll be many more, but at least this was the first time I did it. So that's good.